If there's one thing that Dragon Ball is very much known for, it is without a doubt the many different kinds of transformations that the characters achieve. Since I've recently gotten into Dragon Ball, I thought I'd make a video where I essentially take these forms, most of them, not all, and sort of repurpose them, rewrite them, essentially. So, let's get into it. Starting off with the Super Saiyan transformations, here we have Super Saiyan 1. Now, you might be wondering, what's wrong with this form? Well, actually nothing. I can't find a single problem that I have with this form. No flaws, no criticisms, nothing. This form is perfect. So then why am I bringing it up? Well, in case you don't know, there are in total 4 different versions of Super Saiyan. So here we have Super Saiyan 1, and then there's Super Saiyan 2, which isn't really much different design-wise from Super Saiyan 1. In fact, the main difference is that there's sparks around him, and his hair is more upwards. And I also think it's longer, although I'm not entirely too sure on that. But then we have Super Saiyan 3, which is actually much different design-wise compared to the first two. As you can see, Goku here has significantly longer hair, to the point where I think it goes down to his butt, or possibly thighs. Honestly, I'm not the biggest fan of the long hair, but it's not as bad as I used to think it was. If I did have the chance to redesign this form though, I'd probably give him like the Super Saiyan 4 hair, or maybe like a slightly longer version of it. And speaking of Super Saiyan 4, this is what that looks like. So now that you know what the different types of Super Saiyan look like, what's my problem here? Well, I feel like there's a bit too many. 4? Are you kidding me? 4? That's quite a bit in my opinion. And I feel like it would be a lot better if we dumbed that number down. But why does it need to be dumbed down? How would it improve the story? Well, let's go over that. So in case you don't know what the lore behind the Super Saiyan transformation is, allow me to explain it to you. So, in Saiyan history, the idea of a Super Saiyan was a myth, a legend. And the legend went that every 1,000 years, a Saiyan warrior would be born with great strength, and I guess yellow hair that would stick up. And we know that Super Saiyans did used to exist because the first Super Saiyan was Yamoshi, who I don't believe has ever had an official design before. I mean, on the right there, you can see his silhouette from the Battle of Gods movie, where he's also described to be the first Saiyan to become a Super Saiyan God. But I'm pretty sure that was retconned, although I might be incorrect about that, so if you know, feel free to let me know down in the comments. But there is this pretty cool looking fan-made, or what I believe to be fan-made, design of him. And if you want a better look, here's a bigger image, although it's still kinda not good quality because my camera quality sucks and my phone's kinda shaking, but that's what that looks like. And we know that thanks to this lore, and also the fact that Goku and Vegeta are always going Super Saiyan, that Super Saiyans aren't a myth. But something must have happened in ancient history that led to a majority of Saiyans believing that it was a myth. I mean, in the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie, Bardock, aka Goku's father, when talking about Guinea about sending Goku off into like some distant planet because of what Frieza might do, when he suggests that Frieza might destroy the Saiyans because he's afraid of the Super Saiyan, Guinea says that the Super Saiyan is just a children's fairy tale. But if Super Saiyans are real, what could have happened that led to them believing that? So this is where my knowledge on Dragon Ball's lore gets kind of because I don't know if that was ever properly explained or if that's still a mystery. But as far as I'm aware, it's still a mystery. And that's what makes Goku becoming a Super Saiyan so legendary in my opinion. Goku, throughout the beginning of Dragon Ball Z in the Saiyan invasion arc, is constantly talked down to by Vegeta, being told that he's nothing but a low-class Saiyan warrior, who is weak and therefore non-important. Meanwhile, Vegeta is his superior, because, well, he's the prince of all Saiyans. He's the strongest, and therefore a high-class warrior. He's the most important Saiyan of all. And yet, despite that, Goku's the one who gets the Super Saiyan form. This legendary, mythical form that hasn't been seen for 1,000 years. And the reason why is because Goku, he trained to be strong for his friends and family. He trained to get this form. Meanwhile, Vegeta, he was just strong. He didn't train, and if he did, it was probably very little. And that's why, after Frieza's defeated, Vegeta finally gets the Super Saiyan form, because he trains for it out of pure desperation to get it because he's jealous that Goku and Trunks both have it. But still, Goku achieves it first. And I don't know, I find that to be so cool and kind of inspirational how even if you're not as, or quote unquote not as important as someone else, you can still achieve greater things than that person if you just try hard enough. So then when we look at Super Saiyan 2, it's just a much better version. A version which I'm pretty sure no other Saiyan had ever achieved before. I'm pretty sure Gohan was the first to ever achieve Super Saiyan 2. And then we look at Super Saiyan 3, and it's more powerful than Super Saiyan 2. And then you have Super Saiyan 4, which is more powerful than Super Saiyan 3. So I hope you're now starting to understand what it is I'm trying to say. Basically, to me, whenever there's a new Super Saiyan form introduced, it kind of makes the legendary story of the Super Saiyan and Goku being the first to achieve it in 1,000 years less legendary when there's all these extensions to it. Plus, it also makes Super Saiyan 1 kind of obsolete, because why ever use that when you just have more powerful versions, like Super Saiyan 2? I mean, at least with Super Saiyan 3, it makes sense why the characters don't use it that much. It takes a lot of energy to actually achieve, and during a fight, if you're trying to get a lot of energy, that's going to take a while, which is not a good thing. So, it makes sense why Super Saiyan 3 isn't used. But Super Saiyan 2, why doesn't Goku just use that all the time? You could make the argument that Super Saiyan 2 uses a lot more energy, therefore Goku would probably get tired or whatever quicker. And I'm sure that's the actual in-universe explanation, but energy doesn't really seem to be all that important in Dragon Ball fights, at least not modern ones from what I've seen of them. So, yeah, I hope you now understand why I want to dumb down the number of Super Saiyan transformations. However, I don't want to get rid of them. Instead, I want to repurpose them. How so? Well, it's kind of difficult to explain. So, to help me, I made this piece of artwork to essentially show what it is I want to do with the Super Saiyan forms, how I want to repurpose them. So, as you can see, we have Super Saiyan 1, Super Saiyan 2, and Super Saiyan 3. But at the top, we see that that's what it says, but Super Saiyan 1's over both of these, and Super Saiyan 2's over Super Saiyan 3. Why is that the case? And what do these numbers at the bottom mean? Well, the numbers at the bottom mean power. So essentially how much someone has to use, how much power someone has to use in order to achieve that form. And with Super Saiyan 2, I essentially combined it, stitched it together with Super Saiyan 1. So already that's one form gone. Now Super Saiyan 2 is just a part of Super Saiyan 1, and it's achieved when you use 50% or more of Super Saiyan 1's power. So that's all cool, but since now there's no Super Saiyan 2, that means Super Saiyan 3 becomes Super Saiyan 2. And before I continue, that's just what we're going to call it from now on. For the rest of this section, we're going to be calling Super Saiyan 3 Super Saiyan 2 to avoid any confusion. So, what does it mean to go beyond 100? Because as you can see, Super Saiyan 1, 50 to 100, that's the max. So what does it mean to go even further beyond? Well, if you remember Goku's speech to Babidi when he went Super Saiyan 3 for the first time, he says that he's going to go even further beyond. So I want to incorporate that into the lore. So now, in order for Goku to achieve this form, he essentially has to pull a Saitama and absorb so much energy that it breaks past his limiter, going even further beyond than 100% of his power. And of course, this would cause him to go like crazy strong and his hair to grow significantly longer. So yeah, that's pretty much how I'd incorporate these forms. I hope that made sense. I hope I explained that well. But wait a second, you might be wondering, where's Super Saiyan 4? What, did I just get rid of that? Well, no. So let's get into that. The reason as to why Super Saiyan 4 wasn't included on the piece of artwork that I showed off was mainly because with Super Saiyan 4, I want to have it not be a Super Saiyan transformation, but rather its own unique thing. The reason for this is because if you actually look at Super Saiyan 4, which by the way, we're going to be mainly using the GT version as that's my favorite version, but for all of you Daima fans, don't worry, we will be mentioning that form or that version later in this video. But anyways, if you actually look at Super Saiyan 4, not only is the hair black, unlike the previous Super Saiyan forms that came before it where the hair was yellow, but also Goku has red fur on his body, and also a tail. So the design is unique, but also the way Goku actually obtains this form is different. Because the Super Saiyan forms that came before this one, Goku was essentially, I guess, awoken by rage, and it was sort of just an extension of his base form. However, this is like, he has to not only regrow his tail, but he also has to transform into a great ape, and I believe goes Super Saiyan as a great ape, which allows him to combine his base form with his great ape form, and essentially master Saiyanhood. So, yeah, quite different from the previous versions. So, if this is now a unique form, what would I call this? Well, I was thinking about that, and I thought about it for a while, but I honestly can't think of a unique name for this. I mean, I've seen people call it Primal Saiyan, and I guess that works, but I don't know. I think I would prefer a different name. If you have a cool name yourself, let me know down in the comments, and I'll pin whichever one I find to be the best. But that's basically what I would change regarding, like, its purpose and what it is. But what about its design? Would I change anything regarding that? Yes. Now, don't get me wrong. Super Saiyan 4's design is really good in my eyes. It is without a doubt my favorite looking transformation in all of Dragon Ball. But if there's one thing that's always confused me regarding it, it would be the fur. So, as we know, Super Saiyan 4 is essentially like a fusion, sort of, between Goku's base form and his Great Ape form, which is why he has the fur like a great ape, but you can still see his muscles like his normal base form. And Goku having black hair like his base form, that makes sense. But then, why is the fur red? Great apes do not have red fur. They have brown fur. So what's with the red? As far as I'm aware, this has never been explained lore reason. So this guy has legit just had red fur for like no reason, I guess. So I found these images, I assume created by Big Fo Them, or Nem, and essentially he took like this image, or maybe he drew this image of child Super Saiyan 4 Goku and basically recolored it into like multiple different versions. So here we have the GT coloration as well as GT coloration but with the normal Great Ape colors. Here we have the same exact thing, but he has brown hair. The same exact thing except with the usual Super Saiyan gold hair. And then one where his fur is gold and his hair is gold, and then the Daima one where his fur is red and his hair is red. So, without a doubt, out of all of these, this one's my favorite. 1A, yeah, this is how Super Saiyan 4 should look. Because not only does it just look cooler in my opinion, but it just makes way more sense. Because he has brown fur, just like a great ape. Honestly, the fact that this isn't like the actual official design is kind of crazy to me. But, it's whatever. So yeah, thanks to Big Fo Nem for making these. They're honestly pretty cool. And if I ever was given the chance to rewrite Super Saiyan 4, or like redesign it, this would definitely be the design that I would go with. So now that we're done talking about the first 4 types of Super Saiyan, let's move on to a form you probably weren't expecting to be in this video. Black-haired Super Saiyan. So for context, this form comes from the original Dragon Ball Z anime, specifically episode 195, where Goku goes to Otherworld to fight the Ginyu Force. So you might be wondering, why does this form exist? Well, it's actually kind of interesting. As you can see in this image right here, the one on the left is the average Super Saiyan. And this comes from a preview, a trailer advertising the episode. But on the right is the same exact image, but it's what we actually got in the episode. So the one on the left is from the trailer and the one on the right is what we actually got. So you might be wondering, why does Goku have the Super Saiyan hairstyle, but his normal hair color? Well, originally, they wanted Goku to go Super Saiyan against the Ginyu Force. But then, after essentially drawing all of the frames and all of that, like writing everything, they then realized, wait, you know what we should have done? We should have totally had Goku reveal Super Saiyan much later on when he fought like this Piccin dude. So then they were like, well, we can't exactly go back and redraw all the frames to make his hair look like his normal hair. So what do? Just make his Super Saiyan hair black and hope that nobody will notice. So yeah, that's what they did. They literally just took Super Saiyan, like all of the frames of Super Saiyan, colored it black, and called it a day. Which I don't blame them for. They practically had the episode already finished, so there wasn't really any need to go back in and redraw it all. So, it's alright. But you might be wondering, why am I talking about this form? How would I incorporate it into canon? Well, technically, it is canon. Allow me to explain. In the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie, Vegeta and Broly end up fighting each other. However, as you can see, while they're fighting each other, Vegeta gets this interesting yellow glow around him. And as you can also see, Broly tries to break away from it. Like he's trying to, stop grabbing onto Vegeta's hands there. But he can't. Now, Vegeta, in his base form, Broly could do that easily. But the fact that he can't leads me to believe that this could possibly be a canonized version of the black-haired Super Saiyan. Because his hair is black. It's his normal, natural color. So what if this is now what happens when you're just charging up your energy and you're like just barely almost a Super Saiyan? Like, Because, you know, he pretty much has the strength of one. He has the yellow glow. And of course his hair is black like the black-haired Super Saiyans. So, I think it would make sense. But you might be saying, well, this is just a one-time only thing. But that's where you're wrong. It's actually not. I'll show you another example of something like this that's happened. In Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, there are many what-if stories that you can achieve and play. In one of these, it shows Goku going Super Saiyan much earlier than he did in the actual canon. Instead of going Super Saiyan for the first time on planet Namek, he does it in the Saiyan saga. And as you can see, he has a golden glow around him. Just like what happened with Vegeta in the Broly movie. And to help my case that this is the same exact thing as what happened with Vegeta, you can he literally, despite still remaining like he has his black hair, kind of looking like he's in his base form, he has the strength of a Super Saiyan. Because you have to remember, Goku is weakened. He should not be able to lift Vegeta's foot. So him being able to do that tells me that he has the strength of a Super Saiyan, just like how Vegeta also had the strength of a Super Saiyan, despite being in his base form, or looking that way anyways. However, one thing that's interesting is that Goku's hair is normal, like it's not sticking up as depicted in this. So what I personally like to imagine is that when Goku's hair is like this, and he has the golden glow, that's him turning into a Super Saiyan. Like he's going from base to Super Saiyan. So he gets the strength of it and a golden glow. And then right before he actually goes Super Saiyan, his hair sticks up, but of course it's its natural color. And then eventually he gets enough energy, like he absorbs enough energy, which causes his hair to turn gold. So I like to imagine that like this black-haired Super Saiyan form is literally just like what happens to Goku right before he actually goes Super Saiyan. And I like to imagine that this is the same exact thing as this, but when like he's going from base form to Super Saiyan. So yeah, not sure if that wording made any sense. I apologize if it didn't. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say regarding this and black-haired Super Saiyans. So, moving on. Now that we're done talking about the Super Saiyan forms, let's move on to the God Ki transformations, starting with Super Saiyan God. Now, when it comes to the design, there isn't really much to it. It's just Goku's base form, but more slim and with red hair. I'm personally not a big fan of the slimness, but it at least makes sense. Because in case you don't know, the lore behind this form is that Goku's using a different kind of ki. The ki being the power source in Dragon Ball. At least I think that's what it is. But here, Goku's using God Ki, which is what all these guys use. So it makes sense that Goku would be slim since most of these gods are also slim. Plus, I also saw a theory that said that the way God Ki is actually achieved, because there's two ways to achieve it. One, a ritual, which is how Goku achieved it at first. And another, and this is the theory, you condense your ki, your normal ki, to the extreme. This would actually make sense because it explains why other people can't sense your energy because, you know, you condensed it so much. And it also makes sense why you'd be slimmer because when you excel your ki, you get buffer, as seen with like the Super Saiyan grades and also just Super Saiyan. So, what don't I like about it? Well, in order for me to properly answer that, I have to do a lot of explaining. So let's start with this part from Battle of Gods. As you can see, Goku and Lord Beerus are fighting each other for the first time. And Goku is in his Super Saiyan 3 form, which is currently his most powerful form. And you'd think that he'd be doing somewhat well against Beerus, but nope. Beerus is way too strong for that. I mean, yeah, Goku punched him, but look, he just comes back. And after he comes back, I kid you not, he slightly taps Goku, and he goes from his most powerful form to base form, and just falls down. So, I don't have a problem with this. But later in this movie, when we look at this scene, you know, Goku who now has Super Saiyan God, is having his rematch with Beerus. And he's doing a lot better, which makes sense because Super Saiyan God is like his new ultimate form. But oh no, he's in his base form now. So you'd think that since Goku in Super Saiyan 3 got one-tapped pretty much by Beerus, you'd think he'd be screwed in his base form. But no, he's dodging. He actually knocked Beerus back a little bit. So why is this the case? Well, it's actually pretty dumb, and is one of the problems I have with Super Saiyan God, and also just God Ki in general. So, the reason why Goku was doing so well against Beerus, even in base form, despite sucking in Super Saiyan 3 when they first met, is because when Goku went Super Saiyan God for the first time, apparently the God Ki in him just seeped into his base form. So now in his base form, he's as strong as when he went Super Saiyan God for the first time. Which is just utterly insane. To help you understand better what it is I mean by that, I made this piece of artwork that essentially shows Goku's power level, the bars representing the power level. The two bars on the left are Goku before he went Super Saiyan God, and Goku when he did go Super Saiyan God for the first time. So, as you can see, Goku's power level, and then he transforms and it obviously goes a lot higher. But the thing is that when he de-transformed, as you saw earlier in this video, his power level that he had when he went Super Saiyan God for the first time is now just his power level in base form. So now in base form, Goku has the strength of a god. Which means that now, from then on, whenever he goes Super Saiyan God, well, now his strength is even greater. So, how would I have changed this? For starters, get rid of Goku de-transforming during the fight. Don't get me wrong, this was a very shocking moment, because Super Saiyan God was like the brand new form when this movie came out. So you'd think that for the entire fight, they'd be showing off what the form could do. You wouldn't expect Goku to be in his base form. Especially after what happened when he went Super Saiyan 3 against Beerus. And, as cool as that is, as crazy as that is, I mean, it doesn't really add anything to the fight. I mean, Goku could still be Super Saiyan God right now, and it wouldn't change anything. The only thing it would really change is just the part where he does transform into a Super Saiyan. Like here. Yeah, just get rid of Goku going Super Saiyan, and just have him be a Super Saiyan God. I mean, to be fair, this moment's really cool, but it just, yeah, in this rewrite, I just would change it. So let's say hypothetically that Goku never de-transformed, meaning that he's been a Super Saiyan God for the entire fight. So things will play out just like how it is right now, where Goku uses all of his energy to destroy this attack that Beerus sent towards him. And of course, since he's using all of his energy, it will cause him to de-transform back to base, as you can see here. So now Goku's in base form, and he's pretty much lost the fight. Except in this rewrite, instead of him being as strong as a Super Saiyan God currently, he's only slightly stronger than he was at the beginning of the movie. But how would this help, the plot of the movie? Well, it wouldn't help the plot of the movie, but rather Dragon Ball Super. Because for those of you who don't know, this movie ended up becoming the first arc in Dragon Ball Super. So, when I talk about this movie, I'm talking about it like it's the first arc of Dragon Ball Super. So, one criticism that I've seen people mention whenever talking about the God Key transformations is that they appear way too often. Especially Super Saiyan Blue. In fact, I'd argue, and I'm probably wrong about this, but I'm gonna argue that Super Saiyan Blue, at least in the Dragon Ball animes, I don't know about manga, but in the animes, it's probably appeared more than just regular old Super Saiyan has. Of course, I could be wrong, but that's just my guess. That's how often Super Saiyan Blue appears, and not counting Ultra Instinct because I don't believe that's the God form. It might be, but yeah. Just when it comes to the God forms, that's crazy, right? Because the God Key transformations, they're supposed to be a big thing. The gods are super strong. So if you use the exact same key as them, that should be a big deal. But if Goku can just access a Super Saiyan version of that key pretty much just whenever he wants, it's just not as cool, So, and plus it doesn't even make sense power scaling wise. Yes, power scaling, we're talking about that. It doesn't make sense because Goku in his base almost was a match for Beerus. So how come he still struggles, especially when he does turn into a Super Saiyan God? He's as strong as one, and he has whatever the multiplier is for whenever he transforms into one. How is he ever struggling after this moment? It makes no sense. Of course, I don't believe power scaling is important to a story, but I feel in Dragon Ball's case, since it is a battle shonen, I feel it does deserve to be brought up, which is why I'm bringing it up. So, how would I change this? How would making it so Goku can't access it after this help the story? Well, not only would it fix the problem of God Key appearing way too much, if Goku can't just access it at will, but it would also make Super Saiyan more relevant, because, if Goku doesn't have access to God Key, of course he's going to use Super Saiyan. And, one of the other things about the God Key transformations is that they don't really have build-up, at all. Super Saiyan God is legit just brought up for the first time in this movie. Never before. It just kind of comes out of nowhere. With Super Saiyan and even Ultra Instinct, those had build-up. For example, in the Namek saga, Vegeta's just spouting off about wanting to become a Super Saiyan, and then eventually Goku becomes one. And with Ultra Instinct, it's never really brought up, but that's what Whis is always talking about, learning to just move your body to dodge attacks naturally without thinking. And there's a part in Dragon Ball Super where Bulma tries to slap Goku, but Goku dodges, and he's even surprised by it. So even Ultra Instinct had build-up, and that's why it was so cool, just like why Super Saiyan was so cool, because it had build-up. The God Key transformations don't have that. They just kind of show up. They're just a thing, apparently. So, I feel you keep Super Saiyan God the same, but now Goku has to essentially find a way to rekindle that flame and learn to master the form. And of course you add build up to that. That way when he does master it and can transform to it whenever he wants to, it's another hype moment, just like Ultra Instinct and Super Saiyan. And the same thing goes for Super Saiyan Blue. Maybe in 3 arcs after he masters Super Saiyan God, he learns to master Super Saiyan Blue, and when that happens, that could also be another hype moment, and the God Key transformations can still be a big thing, more well-liked. But, yeah, that's pretty much all I had to say, so moving on. The final thing that I would change about Super Saiyan God is its name. And the reason for this is because, as we've already established, Super Saiyan God is just Goku using God Key. It's literally just his base form, but he's using a different kind of key, which causes him to be significantly stronger, and his hair to turn red for some reason. So this is basically like an alternate base form that he can tap into. So why is it called Super Saiyan God? It's not like Goku in his base form is called a Super Saiyan. So shouldn't this just be called Saiyan God? Since it's what happens when a Saiyan uses God Ki? That's pretty much like all I really have to say. Just change the name from Super Saiyan God to Saiyan God. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this whole section. So now, let's get into Super Saiyan Blue. My problems with Super Saiyan Blue should be significantly easier to explain than my problems with Super Saiyan God. In fact, my only problem with Super Saiyan Blue is the name. Super Saiyan God should be called Saiyan God, because that's what happens when a Saiyan uses God Ki, as we've already established. And in the lore for Dragon Ball, Super Saiyan Blue is obtained when a Super Saiyan uses God Ki. So, since we're now calling Super Saiyan God Saiyan God, I think it would be really fitting if we gave this form the name of Super Saiyan God. Because first of all, it being called Super Saiyan Blue is stupid. Why didn't we call the yellow-haired Super Saiyan form Super Saiyan Yellow? Just feels inconsistent with the whole naming scheme. And also, again, Super Saiyan God, this form, so what happens when a Super Saiyan uses God Ki, it just makes sense. So yeah, the red-haired form is Saiyan God, and this blue-haired form is Super Saiyan God. I'll keep the hair the exact same, I don't really want to change it. I know a lot of people really like the idea of this form having orange hair, since red and yellow make an orange color, but I'm very biased towards the color blue because it's my favorite color, so I'm keeping it. Plus, I just think Goku with blue hair looks cool. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So, moving on. But moving on to where? Well, nowhere. Because this video is officially at its end. Now you might be wondering, wait a minute, why aren't you talking about Ultra Instinct? I mean, you just got done talking about Super Saiyan Blue, and Ultra Instinct was the form that came after Super Saiyan Blue. Plus, you've mentioned Ultra Instinct in this video several times, so you clearly know about it. Why aren't you mentioning it? Well, if I'm being honest, like completely honest, I don't know enough about the lore of Ultra Instinct to properly criticize it. Also, I think the form's really cool. So, as it currently stands, yeah, I see zero problems with Ultra Instinct. So I apologize if I may have disappointed anybody with that information. Originally, I was actually going to feature Gohan's forms as well as Broly's forms. However, I thought it would be better if I had this video strictly be about Goku's forms. So, yeah, if you want to see me talk about those forms though, including Ultra Instinct, let me know down in the comments, and I'll maybe make a part 2 to this. But, yeah, as for now, this is the end, and yeah, I hope you have a good rest of your day. Bye!